All right. Hello, everyone. Today is December 4th, 2016. We had a bit of a glitch, and so unfortunately, I know there's quite a few people that probably didn't get on today. I had to change the Zoom link at the last minute, and I really apologize for that, but honest, it wasn't my fault. So at least you're getting to hear it now. I'm going to begin by doing a share screen just so we have. Oh, it's not on there. Yes, it is. Here it is. Let's see if this is it. Yes, there's those. So you have something to look at while I'm reading. And I would suggest, even though they're listening to the video, you might want to, well, no, you don't need to take notes because you can't ask questions, can you? No, that wouldn't work. So anyway, for the rest of you, you might want to take notes. What I'm going to start with, what I'm wanting to really do, of course, I'm hoping a lot of you heard the first video that has to do with reordering of the Akasha. And that's such a huge topic, I really hardly even covered any of it, just a little bit. So we have more we can, discuss and ask questions and talk about on that. But I wanted first to go over the basics of the Akashic record and what, according to Thoth, according to what I received, what this is about. Then if we have a little time, I'd like to talk about the Hall of Records, only as it relates to the Akasha, because it really does relate to the Akasha. And so we're going to get started, and here goes. Of course, many of you have probably already read this, but some of you haven't. Akasha is an Eastern term which, according to Thoth, refers to the planetary recorder cell where thought, feeling, and occurrences throughout all time in the planet's history are stored as a record of knowledge within the subtle etheric substance of the planet. However, the nature of the Akashic records are much more complex and far-reaching than might be imagined according to Thoth, or Tehuti, whom we also know as Thoth, who holds the title of being the great Akashic scribe. He doesn't give himself that title, but that's historically what he's called. He tells us that the Akashic is an etheric subtle energy region arranged into bandings which are concentric shells within and around the earth. These Akashic energy bands or shells have a very high resonance with the God source emanating from within the human element. The electromagnetic and gravitational force fields of the planet are the media upon which these energy bands are able to record information, also providing stability to their structure. These energy bands are formed through the interaction of two distinct dynamics, which then form a third that becomes the final qualification for the planetary Akashic records. The first two dynamics are, one, the divinity within human souls, and two, the planetary soul. The planetary soul is the living essence of the planet, the heart of, in this instance, Gaia. These two dynamics interact to form the world soul, which the Lemurians, or Muruvians, more aptly, called the Sheila. Yeah, that's the name, S-H-E-I-L-A. Oh, we're missing Sheila. I bet she doesn't know where we are. Sorry about that. Thus, the world soul is formed via the combined light of the souls present within the planetary experience, in interaction and combination with the planetary soul. So it is the world soul, which is then the basic format for the Akashic records held in the concentric energy bands previously mentioned. As they vibrate with the dynamic of the world soul, fields of resonance with the God source are created within their parameters. These Akashic energy bands interlink to form three-dimensional geometric patterns. These patterns then comprise the recording crystals within the recorder cell or Akashic of Earth. Thoth tells us that the most basic of these patterns is called the Akasha, A-C-O-C-H-A, and is actually a single crystal. The Akasha is in the shape of a dodecahedron. Upon each face of the Akasha dodecahedron, the thought forms of the world soul create etheric ripples. The type of thought within these ripples determines where it records. its impression upon the crystal, and upon which face of the crystal it is to be recorded. Now, as we're speaking of a crystal here, obviously we're not talking about something you can hold in your hand. We're talking about an etheric version. Each recording crystal is receptive to receiving the impressions of specific types of thought forms. Just which ones is determined primarily by the degree and quality of the illumination contained within the thought. This is the manner in which the thought forms containing the knowledge, perception, and wisdom, as well as the illusion of the ages of Earth, are cataloged into the library of the recorder cell of the planet. Within the main library of Earth's Akasha, there are two major levels. There are the higher or greater Akashic and the lower or lesser Akashic. In the lesser Akashic, every thought, feeling, and expression of consciousness expressed upon the earth is recorded and compiled according to the intensity level they find within the souls of Earth who produce them. Oh my God, isn't that a scary thought? In other words, whatever is continually fed by the power of mind and emotion in humanity builds a field of increasing intensity within the lesser Akashic. Some of the most prevalent consciousness thought forms in the lesser Akashic would be such things as the world's religions, common issues of survival, and politics. Many of these records contain accurate and true information. However, they are also liberally intermixed with many illusions that are born of mass belief systems as well. When accessing the lesser Akashic, the individual Akashic investigator's thoughts, feelings, and beliefs will be magnetically attracted to information, true or illusional, that supports their own inner feelings and beliefs. If the Akashic investigator is exceptionally clear mentally and emotionally and not egoically attached to their ability to access the information available within the lesser Akashic, they can move amongst the strong currents of lower magnetic energy present and align with the highest truth to be found in the lesser Akashic. It's not a perfect science, but they do the best they can with that, in other words. The greater Akashic does not actually store the thought forms contained in the world soul, those of the planetary consciousness, as does the lesser Akashic. Rather, it alchemically extracts the nectar, the purest knowledge forms, from the lesser Akashic and translates them into highly defined light inscriptions, which are then flamed or inscribed into the heart of each crystal in the greater Akashic field of the recorder cell. Understand that there is only one recorder cell with two main fields or levels. These light inscriptions then emanate repeating pulses of light language imaging from the center of the recording crystal, which can be intercepted by a sentient being. In order for a sentient being, I don't know if sentient is the right word, I used to use that a lot, maybe I should say intelligent being, to read the greater Akashic record, they must first be able to receive this information deep within their own recorder cell. Therefore, the individual is not channeling, as is commonly understood when working in this level of the Akashic, but summoning an attunement, a vibration between the greater Akashic recording crystal within the planetary Akashic recorder cell and the prototype recorder cell within their own crystalline DNA spirals. The information that is contained within the greater Akashic, which the individual has then attuned to, is sent to their brain-mind complex from their own recorder cell to interact with the individual's process of thought formation. Someone has their mic on. If you could please turn all mics off. Thank you. Thus, it is through the individual's thought formation process being modulated within this higher level information, that some communicable understanding of the knowledge received is effected. Unfortunately, when the information received in this manner is relatively pure, it is also very difficult to comprehend when it is transcribed into the common languages of the earth. This is due to the fact that in this current reality, we have structured our languages to communicate a very limited understanding of the omnipotence we call God and the many aspects and nuances of divine expression. Thus, often another translation factor needs to be applied. There are various adjustments that can be made, but in my case, Thoth supplies me with keys and codes or guidance commands, which I can use as a Rosetta Stone to further translate the information. This is accomplished on a subconscious level, whereby these key codes are placed into my auric field and therefore read by an area in my brain which is responsive to them. The codes are in the form of pictures or pictographs, that prompt and orient my language center into a greater comprehension of the knowledge being released from my recorder cell. We still have a mic open. If someone could check, please, and make sure the mics are all closed. Thank you. In addition, Thoth often directly answers my questions. This information flow also comes to my conscious awareness via my recorder cell. In addition, when I need clarification concerning certain types of material, Thoth many times then guides me to other areas of the greater Akashic in which the specific knowledge can be located to give me a larger perspective on the original information I am attempting to translate. Since I play an interactive role in decoding the knowledge downloaded into my recorder cell from the greater Akashic, Thoth refers to me as a source translator, not a channel. This whole procedure for me or anyone working primarily through direct receipt of the greater Akashic is not an infallible program, most especially in that the mental personality has to be involved at some level in interpretation of the information so that it may be brought into a pattern suitable for planetary comprehension. It needs to be realized that all humans on the planet interact with the lesser Akashic. They contribute to it and receive imprints from it, both in dream and waking states. That influences their lives. And it also influences them when they're working with the higher Akashic, even though they're not immersed in the lower, the ones that are working with the higher, they still have a lens, in other words. Thus, we have the greater and lesser fields of the Akashic present within the recorder cell of the earth. The lesser Akashic is influenced and greatly controlled by lesser human thought, feeling impressions. The greater Akashic is impersonal and responds only to the essence of truth within the soul. Thoth states that in the case of the higher Akashic, although it does not store the thought forms contained in the world soul, it does integrate with it, as it extracts the purest essence or nectar from the lesser Akashic. Thus, this is the manner in which it integrates with the world soul via the lesser Akashic realms. Yet, there is another, even greater realm of the Akashic, which Thoth defines as the supra-Akashic. This field is not within the earth domain, but is comprised of the Akashic recording crystals of the universe. It operates similarly to the greater Akashic of the earth, but it is not integrated with any individual world soul. Instead, it contains the harmonic musical language of the angels, archangels, Elohim, and all the creator lords of this universe. Because the supra-Akashic does not interface with the lesser worlds directly, only master souls of earth can as yet interact with its high-level holographic thought form information. Within this planet, when this planet enters its ascended phase as the new Earth star, souls present within that reality system will be able to start accessing some of this higher level information as the supra-Akashic begins to feed select harmonics into the new Earth star greater Akashic field. I'm pausing for a moment because something triggered a thought here. I want to see what it is. Well, I'm not going to try to look for it now. Thoth tells us that as a planetary whole, we will integrate our individual recorder cells directly with the supra-Akashic once our planet moves through the Mazzaroth zodiac and enters under the command of the Mazzaloth greater state of universal being. This will be a gradual, ongoing process beginning with the Earth's entry into the ascended new Earth star reality and will complete at the end of the next cycle, which he calls the new Earth star aeon. In other words, don't hold your breath. That's going to be a while. Okay, the records of Thoth. Now that a good understanding of the nature of the Akashic records has been revealed, we can investigate the overlay upon the greater Akashic field called the records of Thoth. As I have stated previously, certain master beings, including Thoth, have their own repositories of knowledge within the greater Akashic. These repositories are actually filters which define the pure extract taken from the lesser Akashic in a specific modality of divine encoding. Thus, the souls who are meant to work with that certain form of encoding can more accurately discern its particular essence within the whole library represented in the greater Akashic. This is kind of like flagging or tagging files on a computer hard drive for a particular operation, like when you do a backup to a tape drive. The tagged files form a new database of sorts that can be considered a repository of information which has been created from the existing files on the hard drive. Why is this necessary? Thoth explained to me that this world and all aspects of the universe in which the earth resides are in a process of returning to source. In this process, the many components of this universe are all moving toward the full light spectrum of source at different velocities or rates of evolution, so to speak. In order for all these differing aspects of the fallen universe to move in a confluent manner towards source, various levels and modalities of guidance must be inserted into the light program of return issued forth from the divine hierarchy of light. Within this framework, the masters have their service, and in concordance with that service, many develop and maintain their distinct repositories of knowledge within the greater Akashic library. There are individuals who are ordained to the service of working within these repositories to reinsert the knowledge contained therein into the planetary consciousness aspect of the world soul. This occurs in synergy with other souls who are required as well in order to effectively disseminate and hold that consciousness vibration within the world soul dynamic. The net result of this activity then is to help bring some of the various components of this universe, in this case those primarily related to the earth, into synchronization in their evolutionary movement with other aspects of the universe. In other words, the masters are working to help bring the slower aspects of the universe up to the same speed as the faster moving components by accelerating or quickening them via the release of the pure information contained within their specific repository in the greater Akashic. It's kind of like spoon feeding the little baby birds that, are the tiniest ones and may not make it otherwise. So you give them extra nourishment. From among all these master repositories, Thoth informs us that his is somewhat unique on this planet in regard to the manner in which it was originally formed and in how it is organized. He doesn't give that information, he just mentions it. It is for this reason that the archetype of Thoth, or Tehuti, which bears his name in higher mind impression, is known as the scribe of the gods and the guardian of the Akashic. Not by him again, but by history, mythos, whatever. There are ancient texts that state the living Thoth Hermes was the author of some 3,000 books. We must consider that this master soul was upon the earth twice, where he used the name Thoth. In the first experience, he came to earth as Thoth-Muzurud, a being from Orion who lived 5,783 years on this planet in that embodiment. He returned later in the planet's history as the earth-incarnated Thoth Racemus of Afra, who was born in Tibet and lived 300 years. Certainly in all that time, he could have easily written 3,000 books. This is how I had imagined it to be until he recently is when I wrote this, which was some years ago, informed me that during his 2 consecutive lifetimes as the Thoth on Earth, he actually wrote not one single book of any kind by his own hand or even through dictation. When I asked him about the emerald tablets, which he was supposed to have written, he replied that these tablets had actually been impressed with an energetic fire coming from his chakras while his body was in a supraluminous state. They therefore contain fire codes which can be translated into a codified text. This is also true of several other works which he inscribed upon gemstone in this manner. However, these are not comprised of actual written information as we would define it, and the gem encodings of Thoth are few in number. In his embodiments, both as Thoth Wazurud and Thoth Hermes, he directly inscribed several thousand books into the greater Akasha via the previously described process of this fire encoding thing, So in other words, instead of sitting down with pen and quill or verbally dictating to somebody, he literally opened his flame self and recorded it directly into the greater Akasha. That would have been something to see. I would have liked to have been a fly on the wall when he did that. Okay. In both the ancient and recent past, there have been source translations by other souls of Thothic works in his repository, yet he informs me that they were never placed into the written word through any activity of his own. After his 2 Thoth embodiments on Earth, this soul continued to incarnate into specific key experiences on the planet. Now we know John Martinus was one of them. All the while he maintained the template of his Thothic form, which he could recreate genetically at will. His soul would then return to this higher genetic vehicle at regular intervals between his other incarnations in the Earth experience. He is currently in his ultra-genetic Thoth body within the inner Earth realm. During the times when he is working in his Thoth form, this being has continued to light inscribe updated information into his Akashic repository, the records of Thoth. It doesn't mention it here, and yet I knew it at the time. He also has another body that walks around on the planet kind of like, the ones that walk in the Himalayas and everything. And I'm not too sure too much about that, but I did write about it briefly at one time, but it's not, germane to what we're talking about here. This activity not only places Thoth's signature of spiritual expression and mastery upon the greater Akashic, as have other master beings done with their signature as well, but also inserts these light inscripted codices within the repository itself. These insertions then further enhance and direct the presence and essence of the divine programs contained within the planetary Akashic recorder cell. Thoth also tells us that both Enoch and Melchizedek maintain light inscripted codices in the Akashic. The records of Thoth and Melchizedek are composed of a few specific etheric books which link into other areas of the greater Akashic via specific light encodings. Consequently, the development of knowledge within these repositories is dependent upon the entire field of the greater Akashic. Without these links to other portions of the greater Akashic, the information stored in their repositories cannot be deciphered by human intelligence or sentience. Thoth's repository is singular in its form and operation in that many and voluminous light inscripted Akashic texts vibrate within the hologram of the whole greater Akashic initialized within the very crystals that contain his recordings. In other words, Thoth's repository of knowledge contains all knowledge inherent within the greater Akashic as part of its own form. But yet it is not limited to that base of knowledge. In this way, his texts are still a part of the whole synergism of the greater Akashic, but the mountain comes to his repository rather than the information within the repository having to move outside of its own context in order to connect to the whole. This does not infer that Enoch's or Melchizedek's repositories are inferior to Thoth's, but that the nature of their work is different. Indeed, it is the nature of Thoth's place in the higher planetary hierarchy that creates the uniqueness of his presence as a master being, an archetype, and a keeper of the records. Now, I'm sure there's a marvelous story behind all that perhaps one day I will ask him to give me, but at this time, I don't know it. Now, one thing that's really important with all of this, and most of you here know this, but I'm going to put it for the video's sake, and that is that the lesser Akashic is breaking down now. So it's breaking down as a natural process, because as we move closer to LP40, that's what's going to happen. And as the lesser Akashic disintegrates, that's why we're having these, oh my gosh, am I getting Alzheimer's? Why can't I remember where I put the car keys? Why can't I remember what I had for breakfast? You know, what happened 2 days ago, I just can't remember. You know, these kinds of things. These are very, very memory-rich things. We have to, in order to remember where we put the car keys, we don't even realize we do it, but we run a little program. It's all very memory-rich, and it goes, oh, okay, I remember, you know. Well, all this memory-rich stuff is very lesser Akashic. So what happens when the whole lesser Akashic disintegrates? Well, it's not entirely going to disintegrate until practically right up to the moment that all of this other stuff starts and we leave, but it's going to get lesser and lesser and lesser. So let me get back to you guys over there. Let me stop share. Here we are. So what I've been informed is it's so important for us to connect more and more now to the higher Akashic, and that means through our being in heart-centered consciousness, you know, heart resonance. Sure, we have our bad days, and I know I do, and say things we shouldn't and think things we shouldn't, but, you know, more and more we've got to bring ourselves back to, we don't have to be perfect, but we need to bring ourselves back to that heart resonance and really, really feel it and experience it, because what we're doing is we're aligning all our neurons, our brain cells, our energy bodies, our heart resonance, we're aligning it more and more to the greater Akashic. Because when the net is taken away, and that's the lesser Akashic, we're going to fall off that trapeze and fall hard unless we have, you know, the balance that we need from the greater. So let's say, for argument, for conversational sake, that, you know, okay, the lower Akashic's gone. Well, now how do we find our car keys? Well, we can still do that, but we would do it not from memory. We would do it from direct source translation. That's where they are. They're on the counter over there. I put them in the drawer. You're not remembering it. You don't have to even have done it. Where are the keys? Boom, there it is. And that's how we're more and more we are becoming. Even people that are going, oh, well, I can't try. Bill, I don't know. I can't do any of this. You're doing it, Bill. You're doing it all the time. Of course he's doing it. I mean, good grief, is Bill doing it? But the point is, you know, all of these things are going on subconsciously, and they're happening for us. But, you know, I can't find stuff half the time. I'm going, okay, where did I put that? So but you know, it's not right now in the phase that we're in now. Don't panic if you're thinking, oh, I'll never make it with the higher Akasha because I can't remember anything in the lower, because the lower is still with us. So we're still, you know, we're falling back on that. It's a matter of training, and it's also a very awkward period. It's like the teenage years, you know, our feet are too big and our legs are too long for the rest of our body, you know. So we're having to just work through that process until we get stabilized. So don't worry about it. So I've read that now, and I have other stuff we could talk about, but let's move into a more conversational mode at this point. Does anybody have any questions or any things that they'd like to say at this point that relates? Oh, good. Cindy made it. Sheila's not here. Oh, and I know she was probably going to be here. Well, anyway, I'm glad Cindy made it. Hi, Cindy. Okay, so does anybody, oh, yes, Allison, I'm sorry. I didn't see your finger.
Yeah, I don't have any questions at the moment. I think I will, but I wanted to first thank you. This is really significant to everyone, but I feel to my life experience in particular. I perceived these 3 levels of Akashic, but didn't have the clarity that now I have through the explanation that you shared from both. It's extremely helpful for me. I too have seen the lower Akashic breaking away, and I think a lot of the emotion we've seen from world events and this actually spinning out of so much of the world population is a function of this lower Akashic falling away and people just grabbing onto these old thought forms.
Yeah.
And so I've seen that in the last couple of days, helping me to have more compassion for the people that are really spiraling out and actually almost behaving out of character to where they are, even as either light workers or whatever, or activists.
Yeah.
It also has helped me see that, and a lot of this information started downloading to me last night in preparation for this call and this morning. So to hear it reflected back is quite interesting. And one thing that, my call to lead these or create these sacred journeys, I've recognized as activations for a while into the fabric of the world soul. And I can see more clearly after what you explained why that is so. A question that I do have is, I have been shown that the world soul, like the Sophia or the divine feminine, could be a metaphor, and I don't even think metaphor is the correct word, for the world soul, and that the incarnate of womanhood, because in a female body we're automatically connected to the web of life, and I think that's why my journeys have been oriented towards activations with women that create a shift where possible to get closer to the metatronic expression in the world soul. So I don't know if that was, how clear that was, but I began to see that patterning, and I was hearing that reflected back in what you shared today.
Yes. There's no question that Gaia, our planet, and probably, I don't know that all planets can represent such a strong feminine aspect, possibly not, because we're talking about a lot of different worlds. But let's just keep it to Earth for now. But this planet is obviously, very radiant with the divine feminine light. Where the masculine comes into play is the polar energy, and the magnetism that electrifies and brings out the energy. That's very much a masculine role, a very positive, highly spiritually oriented masculine role. So the planet is not without its masculine
Absolutely.
Mate, but when we talk about the Gaia as the round mother, it's not just symbolic. It's, all of these things have relationship. And so yes, I totally agree with that. And it is, now that we have the Queen of the Sun, King of the Sun energy coming into the planet so strongly, as I had source translated and done videos on rather previously this year, now is more the time than ever to bring these two beings together and orient. They're of the sun, because we have to realize that every planet is actually technically in a way a sun too, because of the central sun atonement. So that, the sun is being masculine. Thoth says it's both masculine and feminine equally. Any sun, any star has it's really not even separate. It is. Every star is, but it has, in its relationship to a planet, it would have, a masculine or feminine side in the relationship to that planet that it's working with, the intelligence of that planet.
Yeah, I wanted to say that I concur, absolutely. There's no more weight in one function or the other, but I'm beginning to see the possibility that one of the functions of the feminine, and those incarnate in a female body, at least at this time, is the dissemination of the new codes, because it's the direct link to the web of life, where information is disseminated without thought instantaneously. Like the 100th monkey I believe it was through a female monkey.
Yeah.
That immediately the information was fed or to so many monkeys on a planetary scale. So it's more like a function than any sort of hierarchy or different. It's just a totally different function.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. One other thing I wanted to mention was it came up, someone said something and triggered it. And I probably mentioned this on some videos before, maybe on the golden calf one, but the elite 1%, what Thoth calls the owl, all that movement on the planet that controls the, you know, well, like not entirely controlled, but the military, the pharmaceuticals, the energy, you know, like oil, whatever, the money, definitely, that's flowing all over the place. All of that is very lesser Akashic based. And let's not kick the lesser Akashic. It has its function. It's very a good function. And we need it. And we've needed it up to this point. We still need it for a while. But, you know, it's phasing out, kind of like the red road is phasing out, and red path. So, but those people, the owl and all of their mechanisms that have so controlled this planet in an outward sense, they all are extremely lesser Akashic oriented. I mean, they just practically live there, you know. And oh gosh, I forgot what I was going to say there. Something important. As this starts to come down, you know, they're going to be just absolutely desperate for a hold. And what's going to start happening a lot is they're going to start, well, I'm going to mention Hillary here because she's the only example I can think of, but you know, the brain thing and not, you know, and just falling over and missing thoughts. You say, oh, well, she has a physical illness. People have physical illnesses all the time. That's true, but we're going to see a lot more of that because that's what it causes a lot in people that are just so lost from connecting it all to the higher Akashic. Oh, I know what I was going to say. That doesn't mean that they can't do it at the final moment. You know, no soul is lost. I'm not saying that, and I don't mean to pin the tail just on poor Hillary, but that was the only one I could think of. Anyway, there it went again. I picked it up and I lost it again. I guess I'm not doing too well with my higher Akashic here. Oh, yes. Okay, let me see if I can hold on to it long enough. I think it's because it's not very, but I should say it anyway, I think. And that is that a lot of the owl stuff that they have been doing within certain factions, and I don't want to play a big hand on this because it's not that big a hand, but in certain factions, they have done a lot of black magic stuff, you know, darker stuff. And this really accelerates the cutoff, not only from the higher Akashic, but it tends to get into really, really lower elements of the lesser Akashic that are so dense and so magnetized that they're like black holes. And because of this reason, you know, it served them in a way because it increased their temporal power. But now it's starting to blow them apart, just disintegrate them. And, you know, and they know it. They know that's what's happening. They see it now. But you know, it's not like they can say, okay, we'll just all be real good and it'll go away. You know, it doesn't work that way. Not with people that have been doing this for souls that have been doing this for so long. So, you know, I do have compassion for them and what they're going through. But at the same time, I recognize that, you know, they have made their choices and this tidal wave of light is moving forward. And the tidal wave of light is not judgmental. It's not saying, ugh, look at you, you know, it's not doing that at all. It's just a tidal wave. And if you're in sync with it, you ride the wave. If you're not, you go under. And that's just how it is. And there'll be those at the last minute, maybe they can just, you know, somebody can reach down and on the riding the wave and say, take my hand. And if they reach for it, and light consciousness being I really, really want there, you know, it can happen. And I'm not talking about, you know, all of us converting to some religion or anything. I'm just talking about spiritual activism, you know, sacred activism. Yes, and that's another form of it right there. To be active in that supplying of help to those who truly, truly say, I've had it, I see the light, but I'm all, you know, my feet are stuck in the mud, I can't get out, please give me a hand. And that is so important right now. That kind of compassion that is active, not like, oh, poor person, bye-bye. It's not like that. It's like, I'm going to do something, within reason, within spiritual consciousness. And I think that's one of the most important things we can do right now. Oh, good. We got Samantha found us. Great. I'm so glad. And hello, Deborah. Yes. Okay. So anyway, yes. Michael?
Yeah. Are we on? Okay. Yeah. Hi, everyone. Yeah, Maya, as I was listening to that last piece you shared about sacred activism, about reaching down a hand to those who still might wake up just in time, right? And also the piece about the dark faction doing what comes naturally to them in a domination survival mode, and having that only accelerate their demise, right? And they know it, and it's coming down. With the Templar order, the two riders, right? We've got the sacred activism rider up front, and then the aligned, sort of more hidden second rider on the horse in back. There's been a significant shift just in the last few days that I'd like to share with you, because, when I look at the screen here, sitting here with Bill and Edie, and I look at all these marvelous beings, participating in this wonderful call, thanks to you and your work and, years of service and dedication, and thanks to Zoom and the media. What's happening with the Templar Order, we were saved from being pulled down into a quagmire, what was essentially an OWL trap to neutralize and blunt the Templar mission, and we saw it just in time. And there was $600 million in the pipeline towards our institutions, which we had to turn down at a time when we were at a funding crunch. But that basically saved our institutions from going down a total red path, dead-end quagmire. And what's happened in the last few days is that we have reoriented our purpose, and moreover our legal structure and our licenses and our legal base in Egypt, and our definition in cooperation with the government there of how the order can function, to a and I'm only getting the details on this, but essentially to a media platform with a media definition in our new registrations, which allows us to refocus on this kind of sharing. Because what's happening right now with all of us in our various rooms in different places on the planet is the exact kind of reaching down a hand sharing through. Obviously all of us aren't on the borderline of do I want to jump on board or not. We're fully on board, but there are many lives that our lives touch, many networks that our networks touch, lives touching lives touching lives. And I just wanted to share that it's, things are happening in such a different pace that, and physical steps on the ground are already aligning in terms of possible studio locations, possible funding, some amazing meetings here in Crestone where we go, okay, this whole Akasha dynamic is happening, and everybody is probably coming closer because of the dark faction trying to do its thing. There seems to be an on-the-ground manifestation where the order is being positioned.
Could everyone please turn off their mics? I'm sorry to interrupt you, Michael. I can't hear very well. Could everyone except Michael turn off mics? Thank you. I'm sorry, Michael. Please continue.
Okay, that's all right. That things are moving so rapidly, and it seems that the Templar Order is now being positioned to start to slowly ease out of the red path. We made that red path structure, white stone, grail energies coming in, was slowly being eased out of that to move into more of a informational sharing, love, courage, soul family sharing. I hope that makes sense. It was a lot,
it does.
but it's already coming down into a 3D manifestation that's going to allow us, we hope, to share this kind of amazing session like we have right here.
Which is the tsunami that Maya's talking about.
The tsunami.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll pop off here.
Okay. Thank you, Michael.
All right.
For
Sure.
that information.
Okay. You got it.
Yes. Is it Kat or Amanda? It's Amanda. I can say Amanda. Yes, dear.
Hi. Okay, so thank you, because I feel really awesome because I never remembered anything. So that means I haven't been like connected to Lower Akasha.
Right.
Yay for me. But anyways, it's hard to function because it's good to know people are going to be more direct source, getting things. But I have a very crystal-based existence. So it's quicker, and so I just really liked hearing about all the different crystals and how they record information and how it's frequency-based, and how I thought it was really pertinent how you said even these higher super Akashic spaces, they need the whole entire connection to function. So it's sort of like we need the internet to connect. So everything has a purpose, but I just feel really good that mostly I was connecting with the higher information that you were talking about. And I would like to be private about you personally. I got really off track because we were sitting in all that information, and I had some really interesting things to ask, but now it's kind of gone from the sharing. So yeah, so anyways, I hope to connect with you further. But
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, honey. Just a quick interjection here, because Amanda reminded me of something. And I think I've probably written about this, but many years ago, 1970 something, this was even before, was it before Thoth? Yeah, it was before Thoth came through. I was getting messages from the others, and they said, and you have a benefactor, but you're not able to communicate with him yet. This is later. And then 10 years later, Thoth showed up. So this is way back, 75, something like that, 74. And in that period of time, one time they gave me this. They were talking about, imagine this is 74 something, and they were talking about their computers. And I know that when I was 4 and 5 years old, and I was astrally taken into that desert mountain when I lived in the Ozarks, and no TV or anything, so I didn't know what a desert mountain looked like. Well, maybe on Western movies in town, but other than that, I was taken in there, and I saw these these men in these jumpsuits, these beautiful white jumpsuits, and they were really what we call nice-looking guys, and they showed me these machines, these things, these towers. They were computer towers, white computer towers, and they showed them all to me, and they talked to me like an adult. And I remembered all this until I got back, and then I didn't remember as much. But I remembered things like I told my mother, and she wrote down. I said, "This is one thing they told me." I said, "One thing they told me to my mother," I said, "was they showed me a clock controlled by the mind." I was 4 or 5, So anyway, that happened. But what I wanted to say was back in the 70s, 74 or whatever, they said, okay, we want to give you this from our computer. And they gave me zeros and ones and zeros and ones and zeros and ones. And I'm going, what is this? I did not know. I had no concept about computers lingo being zeros and ones. I knew nothing about it. And so then later I found out. I took it to I had someone who knew someone that knew something about computers, because in those days, who did? And they said, oh, well, this is computer talk, So more recently, just like 3 years ago or something, I read this article where it said that they're finding out that the universe is talking in ones and zeros. I can't remember all the details of it, but mathematically, the universe is talking in ones and zeros. Well, so I went back to Thoth with this, and I said, whoa, how about this? And he said, well, yes, because everything we do, all the computers we've built, and the way they link, and the internet, and how it works, all of this is coming from a higher, connection to the true internet of the universe. Of course, the internet of the universe is far more grand and multidimensional. but it's the same thing. So we're getting the ones and zeros, we're getting all this, and now I read the other day, they're actually building quantum computers. They've been talking about it for years. They're starting to build them, but unfortunately, guess who has not franchise, but one of the big investors? Google. And we all know, I love to use Google, but we all know who owns Google. So they're trying to get in. You see, the owl is really trying to get on these quantum computers, but they're gonna be surprised, because they're not gonna operate well for them if they don't use the right energy. And I won't get into all of that, but that's gonna be the case. Okay, anyone else have any questions, anything they'd like to say? Yes, Bart.
Yeah, I mean, the last bit you shared with us is really interesting, Maya, and I don't know whether you're allowed to speak about that today or maybe in another Zoom cast, but I would really like to know a little bit more about that if we're allowed to know it, because it helps us position ourselves in a better way. So I think that information is so vital, also to the point that Michael Dunn was making earlier today. I'm still struggling with the fact what is it what I want to support today, since everything is falling apart, and we're all dealing with fallen energies here. You want to connect to the higher Akashic, right? I mean, that's why we come to your kind assistance, and we're trying to develop our own inner recorder cell and attune it better to the higher Akashic. But that's the whole thing. So anything that you can share with us on what the owl is trying to do with the latest technologies and all that, and what we're allowed to know about it, I'm definitely interested, because it will help me understand and discern better what is going on today.
Well, I don't actually know a whole lot about that at this point. I mean, in regard to, what they're trying to do to save their sinking ship. And maybe we should do a whole Zoomcast on that once I get more fed with information. But I will give a little bit on that. And that is that, they understand may not be the right word. They know that, there is something else. There's something else. There's this, this light-fed consciousness. They really actually know that, but they're not able to feel it. And so they can mentalize that it's possible out there somewhere, but they don't feel it. And if you don't feel a call to something, it doesn't matter how much information is out there, excuse me, and how much you believe that it is there. If you don't feel it, it's not in your reality at all, as far as any activation on it. So, and the reason they don't feel it, a lot of them, is that they kind of, I hate to use an old expression, but they've kind of sold their soul to the devil, and they have been working with the archons for so long, or what Thoth refers to as the archonic cloud. Sorry about that. That this is their world reality, and they truly believe that the stronger of the two forces, see, they divide it up. The stronger of the two forces, they don't call it good and evil. I don't know what they call it, but there's this thing that we all do, and okay, it exists, but it's out there, and it's kind of weak. It's weak because it relies only on heart. And what is heart? That's sentimental. That's weakness. You see, that's the way they view it. And the side they're on is power, because they can connect to the magnetic energies. They can feel the magnetic energies flowing, especially with certain sexual stuff they do and all of this other that's, whatever. And so they say this is where the power is. Well, they believe this, and they've installed this in their senses, and there have been certain extraterrestrial agents that have fueled that, not by trying to directly influence their belief systems, but they fueled it in other ways, and I'm not even going to go into that. But so, and they have the archons that they're drawing on. So we have all of this magnetic energy that's really, really pulling them into this soup. And But now what is beginning to happen, and actually even 15, 20 years ago, they were starting to kind of see it on the horizon and be really scared of it. But now it's right on top of them. I mean, the bus is right in front of them and it's going pretty fast, you know, and they feel their feet are glued to the road, you know, they can't get out of the way. And that is because they become so heavy with all of this negativity. So there are some among them that are really trying to change things around. Some are. And of course, we have that inner light network that's working and trying to help those that are saying at the last minute, I just don't want to do this anymore. Where are you guys? I want to go with you, but they don't know how to. So they're helping them, and all of this is going on. But nevertheless, what's really the bottom line is the owl ship is going down, and it's going down hard. And we look at it, if you just look at the world events, you think, well, God, that, you know, it seems like they're still in power, but they're really not. They're skating on very, very thin ice, and they're very heavy. So, you know, but the thing is, okay, let's put it into metaphor. Let's say you have the Titanic. You know, it struck the iceberg and it's sinking, and it's sinking pretty fast. But when it goes down, it's going to make a very, very big wave, and there's going to be a lot of screaming and yelling, and a lot of people that you want to pull into the lifeboat, but the lifeboat's really small. And if you know, there's all of this energy, this chaotic stuff, and it's going to get worse in that sense before it gets better. But what we can do about that is to recognize it for what it is. We need to really hold firm in our hearts. And one of the things is to be extremely discerning in regard to people that are reaching out and saying, me, I want help. I said before, reaching the hand that reaches, but you have to be discerning, because there's going to be those that say, I want help. And what they really want is they want your power so they can continue feeding the dark path. And that is where we have to really, really be discerning. And yeah, yes, Bart? You have something?
Yeah, I mean that's exactly what I was trying to understand better, and it's really good that you give this extra explanation, Maya. So thank you for that.
Yes, and you know, many years ago when I was in Crestone with Simeon, and I received a message then, because I've been told for years and years and years that my work was so difficult to understand that it wouldn't draw too many people, but it would draw more and more as time went along, as people caught up to it. And also as I became better at putting the words so that they were a little more understandable. I just went back the other day and I read these little, because I was sorting books and stuff for what's coming, and I found my little notebooks with handwritten, and I went, what? I couldn't understand a word of it. And it was source translation. I was reading it and I go, what in the world am I talking about here? Because it's not that it was gibberish, but it was so highly, you know, oriented to the higher Akashic that I couldn't understand it. So I developed through time an ability to, you know, sort it out better. But that's not where I was going. What I wanted to say was, so I was told by Thoth that, you know, we were going to come upon a period of time soon, and this is in his chronologically speaking soon, where people would be literally pounding on the door to have the information that, not just me, but he was speaking about me at the time, that I have. He said, but you're going to have to be discerning who you let through that door. Not because, you know, it's not some kind of a preferential thing, but because of the energies of it. That they're going to be people knocking on the door that really just want you to save their system. You know, and that speaks for all of us here. You know, we have to be discerning in that way. Are we giving them fuel to keep their systems going, or are we truly opening the door to a person who's ready to receive in the heart the new to them direction? You know, and this is
yeah. I was always thinking about this whole owl thing and the archons and trying to get closer to the higher Akashic in one way or another. As far as I understood your work so far on the Telos Arcara and the Tasic line and the Tasic universe and all that, that would be like a cosmic safety valve of some sorts. If you do not have developed enough heart coherence, if you do not know what it is, you simply won't have the primal key to enter the higher Akashic. And that's why always Yeshua is always pointing at his heart, or the higher heart, on the images that we know about him. And if you haven't developed that heart coherence, you simply won't get in. So what we're trying to show them, I think among other things today, one of the most primary important things happening on our planet today is what's happening at North Dakota. What the people are doing there is amazing. It's just amazing how facing off against an army of such old and ancient aggressive energies, they're still holding them to the heart and sending them love. And that's that's the energies that they don't know, that they're afraid of, and that they need to get to learn in order to speed up the process. If they want to make it through LP40, that's what they will need to do, right?
Absolutely.
So I see very deep connection here with what we're doing and what they are doing, because they're actually not only doing the prayer, but they're also making a stand and willing to sacrifice their lives for it without even shedding one drop of blood of the others, whereas the others are actually doing just that, right? They're hurting and trespassing illegally and all that. So yeah, that's just my two cents on the subject.
Absolutely, Bart, and I'm glad you brought that up because what's going on at Standing Rock is really so beautiful and so sacred. It's unique on this planet. I know we've been through a lot on this planet, and Martin Luther King was such a shining light, and all the work he did in the peaceful protest, settlement, all of that. And I'm not marginalizing that in the least, but I believe that brought us up to this point. And where we stand now and what's going on at Standing Rock, which is going to spread through everywhere, what Bernie did and all of this is it's like the wave of light is just building and building. And when I was doing the Sholar meditation or connection through the Askia that the Sholars were doing in unison, of course we've all been doing it here and there, but for Standing Rock the other night, you could say it's just my imagination, but I saw at one point, I was seeing this huge sphere of, light over both sides, because the ones on the other side, the oil cops, they need to be just permeated with light. That's what the water protectors are doing. They're not our enemy. They just need to be awakened. And many of them are. You notice how many of them are either quitting their jobs or they're being recalled. They're just, it's happening. But anyway, I saw this light, moving in this bubble of light through all of them. And then all of a sudden, I just saw these horses coming up with riders on them. And they weren't Native American. I interpreted them as the I can never say the name, it's so long, but the Hanin Templars. Rose Mystica on the inner planes. That's what I saw. I mean, they weren't wearing a whole bunch of armor and stuff because you see, they weren't trying to fight anything. But that's what they looked like. That's what they felt to me. And they were just there, as sacred activists. And that was like the conclusion of the whole thing that I saw. So it was very inspiring. And I just know that this is going to be a central pivotal part in the whole process. And I know we're kind of getting a little bit off of the Akasha, but not really, because all of this is going into the Akasha. It's feeding the Akasha. And what is going on at Standing Rock and all the love, when you place this into, and that's going into the higher Akasha as well as the lower, when you place that kind of energy in there, it starts radiating and coming back on you, because the Akasha is a communication device. It's alive and communicating in that sense. So what we give it gives us back. If we give negativity, then it goes into the lesser, but it still comes back on us, And if we give it positive, it goes into the lesser and the higher. And that's just radiating back tenfold what we put in there. So that's the beauty of it. I would like to shift just for a moment and look for a moment on the Hall of Records, the records that are on the planet. The Hall of Records under the pyramid, the Pyramid of Giza, which is the temple of the Risen One. And there's also one in the Yucatan. I know Kilasa posted on that, but Thoth had told me about that that Akashic Hall many years ago, and also not a lot about it, but something that it was there, and also that Yeshua, when he transfigured, he walked there and he actually went to that place where the repository is in the Yucatan. And there are other repositories as well of these Akashic records. They really are, because there's not a bunch of books lying around. That's not what they are. They are nodal points that bring the higher Akasha into a place where we can access it through the lesser Akasha. It's like a joining for forces that's physically on the planet, that when you walk into it, granted it places you in a pseudo dimension, but it's not entirely removed. It's just a pseudo dimension where you're able to receive this if you're ready for it and if you're initiated into it. And so these nodes on the planet, these repositories, are going to start becoming more and more active and drawing people to them. And Thoth is saying that even, like there's going to be, just like at Standing Rock, there's going to be people drawn to these areas where these repositories are, and not necessarily under the same circumstances as Standing Rock, but I mean, they just won't know why, but they'll be drawn there, or they think they're drawn there for another reason, but they're going to be near one of those pulsing centers, and they're going to start opening up. The centers are going to start opening up and bringing this energy out into the world more. So it's another way that we're going to get help to move into the higher Akashic framework.
Would that be a sort of proof that the Pyramidas radius is actually revving up?
Oh yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And I haven't had a chance even to get to Thoth about what's underneath Standing Rock, but I would be willing to bet you that there is some powerful telluric energies, maybe a vault of some kind. I don't know. I'm feeling that, and I want to get to him and ask him about that. And you'll know if I know. But I'm pretty sure something is under there. There usually is a staging center of a dramatic event in time and place. It's no coincidence. There's something that helps anchor that light within the earth. Michael? Bill?
Standing Rock tells us what's there.
Well, go on, Bill.
Go on.
You can't just do that.
It's a primary pillar. If you have a pillar for Metatronic streaming, both directions, you have to have a grounding system under it, so the top stream can ground and then distribute. So that seemed, and Standing Rock, or pillar, is also I was looking at that this morning, on the Priory of Sion. Sion means a standing pillar. So Templar interest in this too. That's just a side note. So you can begin to intuit the nature of that matrix underneath where they're working, and then apply it more to what you're doing, or any of us in our particular Metatronic projects. And that would be a very good connective point, at least to try out. I don't want to take any more time with it.
No, that's good, Bill. Yes, obviously the name Standing Rock. I mean, my gosh, Goodbye, Tricia. Thanks, honey. We're winding down pretty much now, but I'm glad you can make it as long as you could. As I was saying, the name alone implies that pillar formation, and that's no coincidence either. Anyone else? I'm going to see what's on my list, if there's any last things, because I know we're getting close.
I also wanted to say something, and Michael also.
Oh, okay. All righty. Who wants to go first? Michael?
Kailasa.
I was just raising my hand to point out that Kailasa, Bart also pointed out Kailasa had her hand up for a while, and I think you just might not have seen
Oh,
it.
I'm sorry, Kailasa. I didn't mean to ignore you, honey. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. Well, first of all, I want to say hello to Michael because the other time I didn't get to say hello. So thanks for being with us, and thank you for your wonderful input to our group. And I also want to share with you two experiences I had working with the Akashic Records. I think I was working with them. The first experience is what Maya already mentioned, that I even wrote about it on the shoulder. I shared this article with all of you, and that is that while working with Maya's manuscripts, I discovered that you can tap into the Akashic records through codes, that are embedded into some words, some expressions that she and Toth share with us on these texts. And I have, as you all know, I am working on a literary saga based on Toth and Maya's teachings, and it has been a wonderful tool for me. The fact that I discovered that I can indirectly tap into the Akashic, because I am getting extremely clear information that I'm being able to use in my literary series. So that's the first experience. And the second experience that I had, it happened about a year ago. I think most of you already know that Maya and Toth sent me into a sacred journey with the Red Queen host skull. Toth told me that I had to take this skull to certain sacred locations, Mayan sites, and that I had to simply open my heart and do what I felt that I had to do in each one of those locations. And I believe a lot of what I did was to become like a 3D agent, an agent in this physical dimension, to work with the Akashic records. And especially when I arrived to the last sacred site where Toth sent me, which was Tikal, which nowadays Tikal, which is a Mayan city, is located in Guatemala, not in Mexico. But later on I found out that until about 200 years ago, most investigators considered Guatemala was part of the Mayan region and was part of the Yucatan. So when Edgar Cayce and when Toth, in their channelings, they speak about the Hall of Records in the Yucatan, they are actually referring to this Hall of Records located not far from Tikal, in a place called Piedras Negras, Black Stones. The original name in Mayan for Piedras Negras, I don't remember the Mayan word right now. I don't speak Mayan, but I do remember that the original Mayan word means a door or a gate, like some sort of portal to something. And so a few days before I arrived in Tikal, I had the chance of being in Chichen Itza, and I performed a ritual there at the Feathered Serpent Temple, the Kukulkan Temple. And I received a very powerful ray of light came into the pyramid and then hit me in my womb and hit the Red Queen host, the Red Queen skull. And I knew that I had to take that energy to Tikal. and that I had to leave this energy there. So I traveled to Tikal, and I was worried when I was in Tikal because I didn't feel anything, and I kept like thinking, Todd, you have to send me a thought to tell me what I'm supposed to do with this energy that I received in Chichen Itza. And suddenly, as I was walking in some place in the jungle, because I got lost while being in Tikal, I got lost, and I walked away from the archaeological site into the jungle, and I was attacked by an army of angry monkeys, and I started running towards this place in the jungle. And so I stopped and I say, okay, Todd, enough of monkeys, you know. I need to know what I'm supposed to do with this ray of light. And then I saw like a strange rock, you know, in the way. And I knew I had to sit down on that rock, and I had to meditate on that rock and simply let the energy abandon my body and get, I don't know, like injected into Tikal at this sacred place. And so that happened there. And many months later, as I got the chance to read about the Hall of Records in Yucatan, I understood that what actually happened is that Thoth wanted me to take that ray to the Hall of Records, and that I had to go to Tikal to do that process. So to close this, I have become aware that as scholars and now as part of the Templars, we are being asked, all of us, to work with the Akashic records in our own way, each one of us. And my own way of working with these records was last year being attacked by monkeys and taking that ray of light to Tikal. And the way I am working with those records right now is by writing a story, writing a series of novels, which I trust I will be able to insert certain light codes and certain truths, essential spiritual truths in my novels, so that when children or young people open those books, they are able to tap into the Akashic records themselves and learn things in the same way I am learning them when I experience Maya's channelings. And I think that's it.
Oh, that's what a beautiful experience, story person you are, Kailasa. Thank you so much. And you know, when you were talking about monkeys, remember one of the ancient Egyptian symbols for Thoth was a baboon.
I wanted to, hey Kailasa, thanks for that great story. Indeed, I was going to say the same thing. And I also wanted to show you from the book of the Keys of Enoch. There is a little map of the Gulf of Tehuantepec, and it shows the sacred grid in Central America. I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, more or less. And
Yeah.
you've been walking that sacred grid apparently, because
Yeah.
Tikal and Chichen Itza, it's a pyramidal form. It would be, if you would take the Rochelle, the upper Rochelle, then Palenque would be on the Resh point. And yeah, I mean, quite interesting to see that you were walking that sacred grid over there.
Yeah, Bart, I actually went to Palenque, to Chichen Itza, to Tikal, and the first place I visited was very close to the Gulf of Mexico. Thoth called this place, I don't know the name Thoth gave to this place. The point is that when we arrived there, everyone kept asking us, why are you trying to go to that place? That place is a bad place, it's forbidden. And when we arrived there and we were performing a ritual, like a purification ritual, the caretaker of this place told us that this was the location where the most important black witches in Mexico gather every summer solstice to perform their rituals and their invocations. And so we realized that Todd has sent us to that place because he wanted the witches out of there, you know, or the light beings working in that place. They wanted the witches out of there, and they wanted the light to go back to the place. And that was also really funny that we kept asking about this place with the name Todd gave us, and everyone was like, no, are you witches, or why are you trying to get to that place? So it was really amazing.
Was it Tres Zapotes?
Sorry?
Yeah, that's it.
Was it Tres Zapotes?
That's it.
Yeah, that's the name of the place.
Yeah.
Tres Zapotes.
Incredible. I mean, you just find everything about it in the keys, you know. Just check the keys, and it's amazing how this is interrelating with the work that we do.
And by the way, Maya, in this place, Tres Zapotes, there is a giant Olmec head. To the place where we were, well, very close to Tres Zapotes. And when I was doing a meditation right next to this head, we realized that there is a church that was built by the Knights of the Order of Santiago, now from Spain. Now, I have no way of I don't know if this is true, but I think there had to be Templars among the Knights of the Order of Santiago, because I saw like the Templar cross in that church that was built right in front of the Olmec head that was found there about 500 years ago.
Wow. Do you have anything to say about that, Michael?
Yeah, and I think Bill might as well.
And I had something to add on the Knights of the Order of Santiago.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, just briefly on Spain before I wanted to get to something else. It's my understanding that, you know, when the hammer came down in 1307 AD on the Templars, that was mostly in France. It was also elsewhere, but the persecution was mostly located in France. In Spain and Portugal, while there was certainly also, you know, the suppression of the order and the persecution of Templars, the Templars there, especially in Portugal, simply were allowed to shift identifications. And so there's a strong Templar stream there that passed down without getting more or less exterminated or being, you know, chased up to Scotland or over to Switzerland, as many of the Templars did. The other thing I just wanted to touch on that you were talking about, Kilasa, is that, you know, I'm seeing all these agents on the ground, you know, that Thoth and the inner planes are orchestrating to do the kind of work you're doing. And, you know, with this low profile, not gaining the attention of the OWL, but, you know, just these quiet agents of light going around, lighting up the dark spots, freeing the planet here and there. And, you know, this new shift to a media sharing of light that we were talking about earlier reminds me, my dear friends Ivor and Diane, who work with Thought Form Healing, and they are senior Templars, they're on the Grand Mastery. They were doing a seminar on their Thought Form Healing, and they work with thought forms that we place in our auric fields, negative or positive, you know, positive ones we've hidden that need to be relit, negative ones we need to let go. And so that they ended up on this radio show. And this talk show said, hey, we've got a big listenership. We work with thought forms. Somebody called in and said, well, hey, why don't you try to clean up the planet's thought form? What if there's a bad thought form around the planet? We've got a big audience. Why don't we all, you know, let's have everybody focus on cleansing and releasing any like bad thought forms on the planet Earth. So they get on there. Ivor does a little pre-check clairvoyantly, and somebody suggested Fukushima. Let's try to clean up the thought form at Fukushima. Well, they focused on it, and there turned out to be an enormous black, dark, octopus-like sort of man-of-war, evil, just sort of multi-threaded, sucking, dark, black man-of-war octopus energy focused from Mishima with an octopus grip over the entire planet. And then, oh, sure, we'll just blow that off. Great, let's do that. And at that point on the radio show, power went out, contact was lost, it stopped, right? And they go, oh, we don't know what's happening. Why are we not able to marshal 100,000 people to get rid of the dark thought form focused at Fukushima? Ivor and Diane later checked in with their guides, and Manly Palmer Hall is in touch with them. And they said, that was an enormous and foolish risk. You do not go on the airwaves focusing 100,000 people on clearing out a main OWL dark thought form on the planet unless you want to become targeted very quickly.
Yeah.
So the beauty of what's happening here, and with like the work that you were doing, Kailasa, is, you know, that now there are all these just low profile agents of light going out, you know, light here at this crucial point, at this crucial point. And as some nice low profile gatherings like this one, hopefully, you know, begin to multiply. And that's going to be a key Templar focus now. And when it comes to places like Standing Rock, you know, the strategic agents of light and love, tactics and strategy that can be used. You take a book like From Dictatorship to Democracy, Gene Sharp's book. It's a manual for peaceful revolution. You know, to share that as well. Anyway, I just wanted to touch on and applaud you, Kailasa, for doing that work, and to say that this is the new, beautiful, sort of humble way of just the light slowly spreading, you know, one point at a time. Okay.
Michael.
Yeah.
Was there, okay, I don't, we got Allison. Okay. Yes, Allison, go ahead.
Well, you know, it's very timely. You know, I have just come back from Spain, and I spent time in Santiago de Compostela and also at the Templar Castle in Ponferrada, and making connections there, and received similar information about the Templars there. And in Ponferrada, they were given the castle there and then politely asked to leave when all hell was breaking loose with the Templars. But they weren't harmed, and allegedly there is a tunnel system under the castle that is extremely far-reaching. And then they were, of course, invited quietly back. I think it was about 7 years later, and some of them did enter the Order of Santiago and some other orders as well. While I was there too, I was introduced to a library that is the largest library of original Templar documents in the world, where a lot of the documents were preserved through families that live in the town for, you know, hundreds of years. And you can go with permission. And I was contemplating going back this summer, maybe in July, with a group of people that wanted to look at the documents. I wanted to put that out there, as well as, you know, the information that I found that the Templars were very involved in the Camino de Santiago, and not only protecting the pilgrims, but hiding the information in plain sight in aspects of the architecture. But it's a little bit more of a puzzle than what you see in France, because the energetics of the Roman Catholic Church were a little bit stronger in Spain, you know, than other parts of Europe.
Yes. Thank you, Allison. That's very interesting. You know, I don't know. It just seems to me that what I'm feeling as you're speaking and others, that the Templar energy is really, really shifting into the higher Akashic. I mean, it's always been there, but what I mean is, I guess what I'm trying to say is that, you know, their role in the past was guarding the higher castle, gardening, I can't say that word, guardianing, the higher Akashic, guardianing the great castle, you know, and they were doing so by, you know, having to be defensive and you know, and war and all of this. And now the function is changing. So it's like, well, that was then, but this is now. And now I think they're about helping to bring people into the higher, to you know, to usher the ones in that are truly ready to come into the higher temple, the higher castle, as the lower one is disintegrating, and to also guard and keep the ones that are just wanting the power to keep their old systems moving. I feel like they have a role now in that they didn't have before, because it wasn't the age for it, you know. And now is the time for it. And I see that Templar energy, and I'm really, you know, speaking about the interdimensional energies that are going on, but certainly would have to be portrayed with the sacred activism and the more mystical level as well. I think all of these forces are redesigning themselves to work with the current reality spectrum that we find ourselves in, and the shifting of that. That's just kind of my take on what I'm hearing here and feeling from Thoth.
I just want to add something to that, Maya.
Yes.
About the Templar, all of it sort of kind of feeling like it's shifting and doing this sort of thing right now. Bill, I just wanted to make sure that you saw both Allison and my offer to assist you with the compiling the science of the Sha'Maia. You got that? Okay, enough said.
All right. Well, we're beginning to wind down here, but you know, we have a little time. Is there anything else that one wants to share or discuss, or something that has been covered? One thing I wanted to say, apologies to Kailasa, because, you know, Kailasa, I had planned to give you a whole platform of time to talk about more about, you know, what you discovered and what Thoth said. I did do, you know, I gave you that, I put that up on the Osiris Arising on WordPress, but I wanted to give us some time for you to talk about that. And I'm sorry, I just completely, you know, left my brain. So I'm glad you at least spoke up about it a little bit. But is there any last thing you'd like to add in regard to your discovery and search there, that, you know?
No, I think if anybody here wants to read more about it, they can go to the article which you uploaded in the Scholar, and you sent us the link through email. So I think that will be enough.
Okay, thank you, honey. It's on Osiris Arising WordPress, the WordPress site, and Kailasa's name is attached to it. It's pretty self-explanatory there.
Well, Maya, what I want to add, this is not something that affects the group. I just want to share something really personal here, is that regarding the Red Queen journey, journey I did with the Red Queen hostess call, I am feeling that when everything happened a year ago, it was so fast and so powerful and so intense that I didn't really have the chance to understand the energies that I was receiving. And I feel that part of the reason I have been feeling so much disease and so much apparent chaos in my own life right now is that the light codes that I received on that sacred journey a year ago, these light codes are finally they are finally being downloaded to my system. I do remember a very vivid experience I had while I was in Tikal, close to the Hall of Records. This was after the night, after working, after leaving this ray of light that I picked up in Chichen Itza, and I left this ray of light in Tikal, and then we came back to the hotel, and it was a really difficult comeback to the hotel for us because we were literally floating in the air. My father came with me on that journey, and he was driving the car, and at some point he had to stop the car because he was falling asleep. I was falling asleep as well, and we held hands because I told my father, I feel like my soul is leaving my body. If we're not careful here, we can die here, you know, something can happen to us because my soul just wanted to get out of my body. Because it was an extremely, even though I felt nothing, for me it was just sitting on a rock and meditating on that rock. I feel like a very powerful process was happening. And that night, as for some reason, I went to the garden of this hotel in the middle of the jungle, and I started, I watched the full moon for a while, and I felt the presence of Osiris right next to me. And at that moment, I felt my soul leaving my body once again. And I didn't see anything, but I felt all my future lives. I felt my whole timeline inside me at that moment. I felt eternity inside of me. And I felt like I was transforming in a very radical way at that moment. And I understood that it wasn't just leaving some light codes in Tikal. It was myself being changed completely by those light codes. And I feel that it has taken me a whole year to process this shifting, this change that took place. It took me about 13, 14, 15 months to process that. And I am personally, the only word that comes to my mind, I am breaking apart, you know, right now. And I say this because I know many of the scholars are going through a lot of difficult things right now, including you, including most of us. I cannot even start saying names because most of us are going through something difficult right now. And I think it's exactly the same thing. Everyone is seeing a part of their own lives being destroyed. And for me, when I came back from Tikal, when I came back to my hometown, I keep a journal. And so I remember that I was writing on this journal, and I said, when I went to Chichen Itza, I got a ray of light, and I had to leave that ray of light in Tikal. But in Tikal, I received another light, like a different sort of light. And so I'm coming back from this journey with this light inside me. And whatever happens from now on until the day that I die, my mission in this lifetime is to express this light, to share it with other people, you know? This light that I received in Tikal, which I call it the dragon light. And something that I rarely share, the meaning of Kailasa, because I was checking on the internet the other day, and the meaning of Kailasa is dragon light. So it's really amazing for me because that light that I received in Tikal, I know that I have to express this light. This is the reason I decided to incarnate in Mexico in this lifetime, you know? And so that's the personal thing that I wanted to share.
Oh, thank you, Kailasa. That's so beautiful. I know it touches us all. I'm getting all teared up. We all feel part of you in your expression of that, you know, and you expressed it beautifully and from the heart. Thank you, dear. Oh, well, I think I'd like to stay here all day with all of you, but I guess we're kind of winding down for now. And this has been a really, really powerful and beautiful gathering. I so appreciate all of you being part of it with me. And of course, it's being recorded, and I will be putting out to my little groups, but you know, that's still under the wire because probably about, if we're lucky, maybe 20 people will watch it. But you know, that's okay. You know, those are the ones that are supposed to see this and share this experience that we're sharing here. You know, and the recording, that's who they're supposed to be. And like Michael said, that's the way we're operating now, because it's spreading in its own way, and it's not intended to be out there, you know, on the big talk shows and everything that everybody's hearing. But you know, it's really going to everybody. It's just going to them in a more a way that can bypass some of these darker forces, you know. And that's what being a warriors of light is all about now.
Yeah, I always get this in my mind that we're actually now from the real special forces that the Templars have always been, the special forces that really made a difference back in the days that they were you know, so strong as an order. That is now being revived thanks to Michael Dunn and the other people that are involved in this sacred project, that were actually special spiritual forces. And that this is the real inner mystical Templar task that we've always taken upon us in many, many different ways.
Yes, I so totally agree, Bart. I'm sure we all do. All right, well, many, many blessings and love to you all. I don't have the eloquent words enough to express it, but it's certainly in my heart. And I'm going to conclude for now, if there's nothing else at this moment. And I will be putting this video up, but thank you all so much for contributing, every single one of you, even those who didn't say anything and they're sitting out there in the dark. I know who you are, and I know the vastness of your heart and in spiritual intellect is pouring into this, to us at this moment, like Anna and Samantha and Sana, and of course Kat and Amanda, even though they did talk a little bit, and Deborah. I want to acknowledge you, and JC, who is Cindy, all of you, and of course Sandra, my precious sister Drew, all of you. I can't see very well right now, but I hope I didn't miss anybody because everybody else talked. But you were there and you contributed your energy to it for sure. And Edie, way in the background there. Okay, love to you all. I got to stop my recording first.